If you're watching this, it means I survived long enough to tell you, though I don't know how much longer that will be true. I need you to understand something before I start. I never should have bought the laptop. I told myself it was harmless curiosity, just another impulse purchase made in the middle of the night. But this wasn't some thrift store find or an eBay bidding war. This was different. This was darker. The truth is, I knew what I was getting into. At least, I thought I did. I'd read the stories, the warnings plastered across forums. Don't click links you don't recognize, don't trust anonymous sellers, don't mess with the deep web. But when the listing popped up on my screen, when I saw those words, government surplus, untraceable, cheap, it felt like the laptop was meant for me. I thought it would be funny. A story to tell my friends, maybe even some edgy flex I could joke about later. But from the moment the box arrived at my door, nothing about this has been a joke. I can't explain it all at once. Not yet. I need you to understand how it started, how it spiraled. Because if I just showed you what's on that laptop right now, you wouldn't believe me. Hell, you wouldn't want to believe me. There's one file in particular. A file that shouldn't exist. Even describing it feels wrong, like it's alive somehow, waiting for me to speak its name aloud. I've stared at that file for hours, and every time I do, I feel like it's staring back. It's not just pixels on a screen, it's something else. Something I can't unsee. I keep thinking about that last frame, the moment it all changed. My blood still runs cold when I remember it. The sound, the way the figure moved, and the way it knew me. Not like a stranger knows you, but like someone who's been inside your head for years. You'll understand soon. You'll see why I can't sleep, why I unplugged every device in my apartment, why I don't even trust my own reflection anymore. But this story doesn't begin with fear. It begins with arrogance. It all started last month when I bought a laptop from the dark web. I've always been curious about the places people warn you not to go. It's a bad habit of mine. When someone tells me not to push the red button, I start wondering how hard I have to press before something happens. That's what drew me to the dark web in the first place. For the record, it's not like in the movies. There's no glowing red skull that pops up to warn you you're in danger. It's just websites, strange marketplaces, forums that look like something coded in 1998. If you didn't know what you were looking at, you'd probably think it was boring. And for the most part, it is. Stale drugs, half-broken weapons, scammy hacking services. Nothing new, nothing worth risking prison for. But then, in between all the clutter, I found a listing that made me stop scrolling. Unmarked laptop. Government surplus. No tracking. No questions. $250 in Bitcoin. Files included. It felt like bait, like something out of a creepypasta I would have laughed about years ago. Still, I stared at it longer than I should have. My first thought was, what kind of files? My second thought was, if it's a scam, at least it'll be a funny story. I don't know why, but the wording hooked me like it was written for me specifically. No brand name. No description of condition. Just a promise of forbidden knowledge. I clicked Contact Seller. The response came faster than I expected. No greeting, no pleasantries, just a single message. Don't delete the files. You'll regret it. I almost laughed. It sounded like the kind of cheesy line a 13-year-old would use to roleplay as a hacker. Still, I typed back, so what's actually on it? The reply was instant. Not for you to know. Just don't delete them. They'll come back anyway. At that point, I should have closed the tab, shut my laptop, and walked away. But instead, I felt this electric rush through my chest. It was like dangling a secret in front of me, something I wasn't supposed to see. And if there's one thing I can't resist, it's the word forbidden. I sent the payment. The seller gave me an address to ship from. The whole thing felt surreal, like playing a game I didn't know the rules of. I told myself it was just an old piece of junk with pirated movies or someone's stolen homework folder. Nothing more. 3 days later, a plain cardboard box showed up at my door. No labels, no return address, not even a fragile sticker. Just a beat-up rectangle that felt heavier than it should have. Inside, wrapped in layers of brown paper, was the laptop. Scratched, dented, no logos. It looked like something from a government auction, sure, but there was something else about it. The plastic casing was scuffed with what looked like fingernail marks. Near the hinges, someone had carved shallow lines, patterns that almost looked like symbols. I remember sitting on my couch, staring at the thing like it might blink at me. The seller's words echoed in my head, "Don't delete the files." I told myself it was nonsense. Just some hacker trying to spook gullible buyers. I thought it was just some hacker trying to scare buyers. I was wrong. The first thing I noticed when I actually pulled the laptop out of the packaging was the smell. Not the usual old electronics scent, but something sharper, like burned plastic mixed with stale air, the kind of scent that clings to places that haven't been opened in years. It looked even worse in the light. The screen was scratched, the casing scuffed to hell, and the keyboard had that greasy shine that comes from years of someone else's fingers. The hinge creaked when I opened it, and for a second I wasn't even sure it would turn on. Still, curiosity outweighed disgust. I plugged it in, waited for the charging light to flicker, except it didn't flicker. It glowed steadily, like it had never been used at all. That gave me pause. When the screen lit up, I expected it to struggle. But no, the boot up was instant. Too fast, actually. No brand splash screen, no Windows logo, just a straight jump into an operating system I didn't recognize. It looked old, like early 2000s old. Stark gray interface, basic file explorer, no desktop wallpaper. The kind of thing that felt stripped down, like it wasn't meant for regular people. I clicked through the menus, and that's when I saw the folders. Most of them had ordinary names, documents, photos, miscellaneous, a few were locked, requiring passwords I didn't have. But one stood out right away. It sat in the corner of the screen, bold white letters against a black background, "Do not open." I actually laughed when I saw it. It was so on the nose, like some low-budget horror movie prop. But there was something unsettling about how deliberate it looked. The other folders had normal icons, but this one, its icon pulsed faintly, as if the system was alive, breathing underneath the surface. I told myself it had to be some kind of gimmick. Maybe the seller was just trolling buyers, hiding junk behind creepy folder names. But even then, I felt my chest tighten. The longer I stared at it, the more I noticed the scratches on the laptop casing. They weren't random after all. The faint lines stretched across the surface, connecting into shapes that almost looked like letters, except no language I recognized. Like someone had been carving warnings in a code I wasn't meant to understand. I tried opening the other folders first. Some opened, some didn't. But my eyes kept drifting back to that one. "Do not open." It was childish. Obvious. But it worked. I closed the lid, telling myself I wouldn't touch it again until I was ready. Still, even as I tried to sleep that night, I couldn't get it out of my head. It sat there like a dare, humming in the dark corner of my thoughts, waiting. And of course, the longer you tell yourself not to do something, the harder it becomes to resist. I told myself I wouldn't open anything that first night, but of course, I did. At first, it all seemed harmless enough. The photos folder was filled with low-resolution images, stock-looking pictures of buildings, empty streets, grainy shots of forests and gas stations. They were badly compressed, some pixelated beyond recognition, and a few tarry timestamps from the late 90s. Nothing special. Nothing worth the hype. Then I noticed the faces. In several of the images, there were people caught just on the edge of the frame. Never centered, never looking directly at the camera. Always blurred, half-turned, or caught mid-step. Men, women, even children, ordinary people who looked like they'd been photographed without their knowledge. The longer I clicked through, the more uncomfortable I felt. Who had taken these? And why so many of them? I moved on quickly to the Documents folder. Inside were hundreds of text files, most of them with meaningless names like file_23 or note_112. When I opened them, I found jumbled text, fragments of conversations, strange transcripts. One looked like a police report, describing a missing person who vanished after attending a late-night meeting. Another contained medical notes written in a cold, clinical tone. But they never had full context, just beginnings and abrupt cut-offs. Like ripped-out pages from books that didn't exist. By then, I was starting to feel the itch of unease, but I pressed on. The videos folder was different. At first, it seemed almost comical. Half the files were corrupted, showing only static or glitching colors. But the ones that played. The first showed a dark room with a chair in the center. Nothing else. Just a chair. The video lasted 10 minutes, no sound, no movement. The second video was worse. It showed what looked like traffic footage, cars passing by, lights flickering, but after a few minutes, one car simply vanished. No cut, no fade, just there 1 second, gone the next. The third video I opened nearly made me slam the laptop shut. It was a clip of someone sleeping. The camera angle was too close, hovering right above their bed. The person, some middle-aged man, tossed and turned, clearly unaware he was being filmed. At the 6-minute mark, his eyes opened, wide and glassy, and he stared directly at the camera. The footage cut instantly to black. My mouth went dry. I wanted to stop there. I should have stopped. But instead, I kept searching, desperate for some explanation that would make all of this less terrifying. Maybe it was an art project. Maybe just some edgy collection of found footage. But then I saw it. Buried at the bottom of the videos folder was a single file with a name that froze me in place. last_video.mp4. No timestamp. No metadata. Just those words in stark white letters. I hovered my mouse over it for what felt like forever, my finger trembling above the trackpad. Something in me screamed not to click. The same instinct that makes you recoil from fire or step back from a ledge. I didn't open it. Not then. But the fact that it was there, that I could open it, gnawed at me. The seller's words came back, "Don't delete the files. You'll regret it." I should have stopped there, but I couldn't. I lasted 2 days before I finally gave in. 2 days of pretending I could ignore it, 2 nights of restless sleep with the image of that file name last_video.mp4 burning in the back of my eyelids. It felt less like a file and more like a dare. Like something that wasn't just waiting for me to open it, but demanding I do. The second night I woke up at 3 a.m., sweating, heart racing, and before I could even think, I was sitting back at the desk, laptop open, the cursor hovering over it. I clicked. The screen blinked to life with a sudden burst of static. Then darkness. The video showed a room. Dimly lit, walls concrete, floor stained. It could have been a basement, or a bunker, or a cell, there was no way to tell. A single bulb swung above, throwing shadows that stretched unnaturally across the walls. In the center sat a chair. And in that chair, someone was bound. They slumped forward, head hanging, their hair obscuring their face. Thick ropes tied their wrists to the arms of the chair. For several seconds, nothing happened. Just the faint hum of the bulb and the grainy crackle of the audio. Then, whispers. They came faintly at first, like someone muttering from far away, words tangled in static. I leaned closer to the speakers, straining to make sense of them. "Not supposed to see, not for you." The audio glitched, crackled, and warped. And then, as if directly into my ear, a voice cut through. Distorted, layered, inhuman. "You're next." I froze. My skin prickled, and for a moment I almost slammed the lid shut. But I couldn't. I just kept watching. The figure in the chair stirred. Their head lifted slowly, painfully, as if it weighed too much. When the face finally came into view, I felt my stomach drop. Their eyes were covered, wrapped in a strip of black cloth. Their mouth was gagged, but I could see it moving beneath the fabric, struggling to form words. The whispers grew louder, overlapping, like a chorus of voices bleeding through the static. And then, one clear phrase emerged. "They're watching." The camera shook slightly, zooming in closer without anyone touching it. I swear I saw shadows moving along the walls, shapes that didn't match the figure in the chair. I paused the video, heart pounding, palms slick with sweat. My cursor hovered over the timeline bar, debating whether I could handle the rest. But curiosity is a cruel thing. I pressed play again. The bound figure suddenly snapped their head toward the camera. Despite the blindfold, despite the gag, I knew they saw me. Their movements weren't random. They were locked onto the lens, locked onto me, across decades, across whatever impossible barrier separated us. And then they spoke. The gag muffled the sound, but the distortion cleared just enough for me to hear one word. My name. Clear. Perfect. Undeniable. I yanked my headphones off like they were burning me. My entire body went cold. There was no way. There was no way a decades-old corrupted video knew who I was. The screen flickered violently, and for a split second, I saw something else flash across it, a seal, or a symbol. Letters, numbers, arranged like a government classification stamp. Project Echo, it read, before vanishing back into static. This wasn't just some creepy video. It was part of something bigger. A program. A conspiracy. A system designed to record things no one should see. I sat frozen, staring at the screen, the whispers still bleeding from the speakers even after the video had ended. It was as if the file had no endpoint, a loop designed to play forever. That was when I realized the truth. This laptop wasn't just abandoned tech. It was a trap. After watching last_video.mp4, I couldn't shake the feeling that I'd crossed some invisible line. At first, it was just paranoia, closing the blinds, checking the locks twice before bed, jumping at shadows. But within days, the paranoia had proof. The first sign was the lights. I was sitting in the living room, laptop closed, trying to distract myself with some mindless TV when the overhead light flickered. Once, twice, then buzzed as if straining against an invisible current. I turned it off, then on again. It steadied for a moment. But as soon as I walked back toward the laptop, it started up again, pulsing like a heartbeat. I told myself it was faulty wiring. Old bulbs. Nothing more. But then came the files. I tried deleting them. Every folder, every corrupted video, even that cursed last_video.mp4. I highlighted everything, pressed delete, emptied the recycle bin, and shut the laptop down. Relief washed over me. It was over. Until the next morning, when I booted it back up. Every file was back. Not just back, they'd multiplied. Entire new folders appeared with names like Echo_01, Echo_02, stretching into the dozens. When I opened them, they contained the same images, the same documents, except different. The faces in the photos weren't blurred anymore. They were clearer. And some of them were looking directly at the camera. Directly at me. That was when the webcam light came on. The laptop sat across the room, lid open, the little green light glowing steadily. My stomach dropped. I hadn't touched it. The camera was watching on its own. I covered it with tape, slammed the lid shut, even unplugged the thing, but when I glanced back, the light was still on, faintly glowing from beneath the closed screen. I started to panic. This wasn't just a virus. It wasn't malware. It felt alive. The worst came later that night. I was scrolling through my email, trying to ground myself in something normal, when a new message appeared in my inbox. The sender? My own address. Subject line: "Why are you watching?" My hand shook as I clicked it open. No body text, just an attachment, a still image. My apartment, from the angle of my own laptop webcam. And in the corner of the frame, barely visible in the shadows, someone standing. Before I could even react, a chat window popped up on the laptop screen. Not an app I'd installed, not anything I recognized. Just a black box with blinking white text. "Stop watching." I stared at it, frozen. Another line appeared, typing itself out in real time. "You weren't supposed to see Project Echo." My throat went dry. I typed back with trembling fingers. "What is this? Who are you?" For a long moment, nothing. Then 3 words appeared. "We found you." The window closed itself. I tried pulling the plug from the wall, but even without power, the laptop stayed on. The screen glowed faintly, pulsing like it was breathing. That was when I noticed a new folder on the desktop. This one unlike the rest. It was locked with a password, but its name sent a chill straight down my spine: Final_Echo. I hovered my mouse over it, heart hammering, but didn't click. Not yet. Because in that moment, fear gave way to something worse. Obsession. I had to know what they were hiding. The folder sat there like a dare: Final_Echo. Locked. Waiting. For hours, I stared at the password prompt, trying random guesses, half expecting the thing to laugh at me for even trying. But then I remembered the corrupted documents I'd skimmed through, the ones that looked like medical reports and transcripts. At the time they felt like scraps of nonsense, but maybe they weren't random at all. I went back, combing line by line. And that's when I noticed the pattern. Certain words repeated: Echo 12, Phase 3, Threshold. At first it read like gibberish, but some of the letters were always capitalized in odd places, hidden in the middle of sentences. When I strung them together, they formed a phrase. D0WN underscore the underscore V01D. I typed it in. The folder unlocked instantly. Inside, dozens of subfolders appeared, labeled with numbers and codes: Echo 01, Echo 02, all the way into the hundreds. My pulse spiked as I opened the first. Documents, cleaner than the corrupted ones. They weren't fragments anymore, they were files. Reports stamped with official-looking seals, names of agencies I recognized and some I didn't. The words experimental AI human interface kept appearing. Phrases like cognitive tethering, memory bleed, and subject compliance. I clicked into the photos folder next. Faces stared back at me. Not stock images, not blurred figures this time, but full portraits. Men, women, even children. Some looked terrified, others dazed, their eyes unfocused as if drugged. Every file had a name and a date. Some of those names I recognized from missing persons cases I'd read about online. My stomach dropped. This wasn't just some creepy archive. This was evidence. One folder held maps and GPS coordinates. When I typed a few into Google Earth, they weren't random spots in the middle of oceans or deserts. They were real places: warehouses, rural hospitals, even an abandoned military base I'd once seen featured in another horror forum thread. I almost laughed in disbelief. It was like all the urban legends, all the so-called creepypastas, weren't stories at all. They were warnings we'd mistaken for fiction. It reminded me of something I'd read years ago, a story about a number station that transmitted eerie codes tied to disappearances. At the time, people brushed it off as internet horror. But now, staring at these files, I wondered if that story had been connected too. If they were all connected. Project Echo wasn't a myth. It was real, and somehow this laptop was its archive. And then I opened the video files. Unlike the earlier corrupted ones, these were crisp, high resolution. They showed experiments. People strapped into chairs with headsets that looked like medieval torture devices mixed with VR gear. Electrodes pressed to their temples, wires trailing into machines. Some screamed, some sat motionless while their eyes flickered rapidly beneath closed lids. One video had audio. A doctor's voice, calm and clinical. Subject is resisting tether. Increase dose. Override will. Another showed a subject convulsing violently before going still. The file ended without explanation. I sat back in my chair, dizzy, nauseous. This wasn't entertainment. It wasn't even blackmail. It was a window into something I wasn't supposed to see, something mixing science, control, and ritual. And then I heard it. Not from the laptop, but from somewhere else. A sound. 3 sharp knocks at my door. I thought the files were the worst part, until the knock on my door. The knocks didn't stop. 3, then silence. 3 more. Each one rattled through me like a heartbeat I couldn't control. I sat frozen, laptop still glowing in front of me, the words Project Echo stamped into my brain. For a moment, I told myself it was a delivery, a neighbor, anything ordinary. But when I finally crept toward the door and peered through the peephole, there was no one there. That should have calmed me. It didn't. Because as I stepped back, I heard something else, footsteps. Slow, deliberate, pacing just outside in the hall. I stumbled backward, clutching my phone. I dialed without thinking any number, maybe a friend, maybe 911. But before the first ring could even connect, the screen flickered and the call redirected. The line went live on its own. At first there was only silence, then faint static, then the sound of someone breathing. Long, wet, distorted breaths, like they were right beside the speaker. I whispered, "Who is this?" The reply came in a voice layered with glitches, half human, half machine. "We found you." I nearly dropped the phone. My pulse hammered in my throat as I killed the call, but the words still echoed in my head, overlapping with the footsteps that seemed to circle the apartment. That was when I heard the scrape at the window. I live on the 3rd floor. No balcony, no fire escape. And yet when I pulled back the curtain just an inch, I saw it, a figure standing on the narrow ledge, inches from the glass. Its face was wrong, blurred, shifting, like pixels trying to form into something recognizable but failing. The longer I stared, the more it seemed to adjust, as if it were building a face just for me. I yanked the curtain shut, stumbling back, heart clawing its way out of my chest. Behind me, the laptop chimed. The screen flickered violently, the files flashing one by one, before settling into something new, a video window, live and crisp. At first I didn't recognize what I was looking at. Then I realized. It was me. The live feed showed my apartment. My back hunched over, my shoulders trembling as I stared at the screen. A perfect mirror of this exact moment, except the angle was wrong. Too high, too far to the left. It wasn't the webcam. It was another camera, somewhere in the room I couldn't see. The feed zoomed in slowly, deliberately, until it framed only my face. My reflection stared back, pale, shaking, eyes white with terror. And then, through the tinny laptop speakers, came the voice again. "We found you." I couldn't breathe. Couldn't think. The live feed stayed frozen on my face for what felt like forever before cutting to black. On the desktop, a new icon appeared. A single file. Goodbye.mp4. I should have smashed the laptop then, ripped it apart, thrown it out the window. But instead, I pressed play. The screen stayed black for a moment after I clicked, long enough for me to wonder if the file was corrupted like the others. Then it flickered to life. At first, I didn't even register what I was looking at. A grainy, wide-angle shot of a small living room. A couch. A coffee table. books stacked haphazardly on the floor. It took me a few seconds to realize why it felt so uncanny. It was my living room. The image quality was rough, like a security cam feed from some corner I didn't recognize. My blood chilled as I studied the angle up in the corner near the ceiling, a spot I knew for certain had no camera. Nothing but bare plaster. The footage rolled on in silence. I watched myself enter the frame. Same hoodie, same nervous pacing, phone clutched in one hand. The me on screen looked restless, jerking my head toward the door every few seconds, exactly as I had minutes earlier. I watched myself sit on the couch, rub my temples, glance toward the window where the figure had been. The timestamp matched the current time. It wasn't old. It wasn't staged. It was now. My throat went dry. The view cut. Another camera angle. This one from the kitchen, high above the fridge. Again, impossible, I had no camera there. But the footage showed me moving through, opening cabinets with shaking hands, pouring a glass of water I barely remembered drinking. Another cut. The hallway. Then the bathroom. Every angle was covered, each one sharper, clearer than the last. I leaned closer to the screen, scanning every frame, desperate to find the trick, maybe an old video, maybe hack security footage from some other apartment that just happened to look like mine. But then the me on screen turned suddenly, as if hearing something, and stared directly at the lens. At me. I flinched back, chair scraping across the floor. The footage jumped again. Now it was my bedroom. I watched myself sit on the bed, shoulders slumped, head in my hands. The room was dim, the only light coming from the laptop screen glowing in the background. And that's when I noticed something else. The video wasn't showing me in the past. It was showing me now. The on-screen version of me shifted, standing up, crossing the room exactly as I was doing in that moment. I lifted my hand to the screen, and the me in the video did the same, perfectly synchronized. It wasn't a recording. It was live. The feed zoomed in, crawling closer and closer to my face until it filled the screen with my own terrified eyes. My reflection twitched slightly, off by a fraction of a second, like a mirror with a lag. Then the camera pulled back. I wasn't alone. Behind the on-screen me, in the grainy glow of the laptop light, a figure stood. Not blurred this time, not pixelated. Its face was featureless, smooth skin stretched where eyes and mouth should have been. Its head tilted slowly, unnaturally, like it was listening to something only it could hear. I spun in my chair, heart slamming against my ribs, but there was nothing behind me. Only the dark, quiet apartment. When I turned back, the video had changed again. It showed me sitting at my desk, hunched over the laptop. Exactly how I was at that moment. Same angle, same posture, same flicker of the screen lighting my face. Except, there was no camera where the video claimed to be recording from. The angle was impossible, like someone was watching me from a vantage point that didn't exist. The on-screen me leaned closer to the laptop. My own breathing filled the room. And then the me in the video looked directly at the camera. Directly at me. Not delayed, not mirrored ahead. As if it knew what I was about to do before I even did it. I couldn't move. Couldn't breathe. My reflection's lips twitched, curling into the faintest suggestion of a smile. The feed froze on that image, my own face staring at me, smiling when I wasn't. Then the file cut abruptly to black. And I was left alone with the hum of the laptop, the reflection of my pale face staring back at me from the dark screen. I don't know how long I have left. The laptop hasn't shut off once since I clicked that final file. Even when I close the lid, the screen glows faintly, humming like it's alive. The fan never stops. The battery doesn't die. I unplugged it for an entire night, left it in the closet under a blanket, but in the morning the glow leaked through the fabric like a heartbeat in the dark. And the files, they're multiplying. Every time I open the desktop, there are more. At first just duplicates of the old ones, images, transcripts, corrupted videos. But now, they're new. Fresh. Some are labeled with today's date. Some with tomorrow's. And some with my name. I opened one this morning. Against my better judgment, I clicked, and there I was, footage of me sleeping in my own bed just hours earlier. The camera angle was perfect, steady, impossible. My chest rose and fell, my lips parted slightly, my body twitching in restless dreams. And then, at exactly 3:07 a.m., my eyes opened and stared directly at the lens. I don't remember doing that. I don't remember any of it. Now every shadow feels wrong. Every window feels like a screen I can't shut off. I've taped over my phone camera, unplugged my router, even pulled the smoke detector off the ceiling because I don't know where they're watching from. But I know they are. The breathing hasn't stopped either. Every call I get now, no matter the number, is the same, silence, then that long, wet static breathing. Sometimes I hear words buried in the noise, my name, whispered like a curse. Once, the voice muttered something new. You can't stop the upload. And maybe they're right. Because as I'm speaking this, as I'm recording, the laptop is already saving a new file. I can see it appearing, one letter at a time on the desktop. Confession.mp4. I swear I didn't name it that. I shouldn't even be telling you this. Maybe I'm feeding into whatever game this is, whatever project they started decades ago. Maybe I'm the next phase. Or maybe I'm just the latest idiot who thought the dark web was some thrill ride instead of a graveyard. There's one file I still haven't opened. It just appeared this morning. No name, no extension, just a blank icon pulsing faintly like it's waiting for me. If you want me to open it, leave a comment. Because I don't think I'll do it alone. And if I disappear after this upload, if this video is the last time you hear from me, don't buy anything from the dark web. Some files aren't meant to be seen.